noon hour is here.
Check it out.
And you're locked on to Utah's highest rated, most listened to sports radio station.
It's my station. It's my station.
This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Ben Anderson sitting in momentarily for the guys who are down at RGS Exteriors today. They're going to be there until 3 o'clock, 4235 Farm Road in West Jordan. We will have them up and running in no time.
Gotta love live radio,
Live radio,
Ben.
that's part of it. Jake had to bail. Liar.
You know, I wish you had a little bit more of a team helper.
Got somewhere to
guy.
be. I bet you do.
Jeez Louise.
Lunch.
12 o'clock, I'm out.
Hungry. You have to get out of here as quick as possible. Anyway, so happy to be here. I will be with you.
We're kidding, Jake.
As long as you need. Maybe.
We're kidding.
Maybe.
You're always willing to help, I know.
Except for today.
Just not today.
So, in the place of Hans and Scotty, if you missed it yesterday, Richie Saunders, star of the BYU basketball team and of Tater Tot fame, did join the show, breaking down their first successful weekend at the NCAA tournament and their upcoming weekend, including tomorrow night's game against Alabama. Here's what Richie Saunders had to say.
Joining us now, Richie Saunders from the BYU basketball team on their way to New Jersey for a showdown against Alabama. Richie, congratulations on the run so far. How much fun are you having with this?
Hey, thank you. It's been super fun, man. You know, I just, every little thing has just been so fun, especially just for a long season, a lot of ups and downs. It's just super grateful to be part of it.
Has the Tot thing been fun or annoying to you?
You know, it's a little comical. It's all been fun. But it's funny how I am getting asked about that versus basketball, which is hilarious. But no, it's all good fun, man.
Well, I got to tell you, Richie, Scotty and I have been doing this sports radio thing for about 18, 20 years between the two of us. And people never remember anything we say about sports. But we say one thing off color or a little bit crazy, and people remember it. So I got to tell you, so I played at BYU for 5 years, football, of course, and I did a lot of great things when I was there. But I did one magazine spread for ESPN, the magazine, where I balanced a table on top of my chin with a dog on it. And the only thing people remember me for at BYU was the chin balancer. So embrace this stuff, man, because this will put you in BYU lore, bro.
That's funny, man.
Hey, when you go back to the 1-3 start in Big 12 play, and now you guys are the hottest team in college basketball, can you identify a moment when the switch got flipped, or was it just things just finally came together for you guys?
It's just a combination of a lot, right? But like the biggest thing that, like, as I've kind of reflected and talked about this and stuff, is it's just a matter of we were 1-3, just lost at TCU. I'm sitting just like, this sucks. What in the world are we gonna do? How in the world are we gonna figure this out? We kind of just we had a little players meeting, and in that it was just one of hey, screw everything else. We have to play for each other. We have to be all in for each other. And just an attitude of we're going to play harder than the person in front of us, the other team. With that, and just coming every day with that attitude moving forward, it just it was big, because it's just our story has been one of resilience. Because then we win a few games and then we lose another 3 in a row or whatever, right? This is just, it's up and down, but it's when you get up and you see the whole picture, it's cool to see that 1-3. That wasn't the end story of our season,
Yeah, that was just the beginning of what you guys were able to do. And Richie, one thing that I've watched is your usage in Kevin Young's system, and it just feels like you and he are on the same page, and it feels like you're unified and you believe in each other. And I'm curious on this because last season, you started one game, played in 34. You averaged about 9-10 points a game, and you were just very solid contributor. This year, under Kevin Young, you've become the leader, obviously the leader, not just for the team, but one through the country. And it's been an amazing unification. At what point did you know that you and Kevin Young would be on the same page and that you could do great things with him and his scheme?
That's a good question, right? I'm in the portal, and I'm watching film with Coach Young. And I just right off the bat, he just challenged me. He just gave me a few different challenges, and like from that moment, I just like, okay, this guy, he believes in me, and he knows and can help me to reach higher. And the season's so long, like I just talked about. But like when Diego goes down and like he's got his injury, there's just a couple other injuries. Like just had to figure it out, right? Like I just had to kind of figure out what, how to kind of get through. That's just kind of just how it kind of shaped up. But I take the past 2 years, and combination of that has led me to this point. And like it's just a matter of keep growing and evolving your game, just like I hope every young kid or whatever wants. Like you just got to keep evolving, keep taking one thing at a time, and keep doing that for long enough. I believe that good things happen.
What's been really fun to watch this team is that certainly you guys have your stars, yourself included, but on any given night, anybody can have that big play. Anybody can make that big bucket or have that big moment. And it seems like there's a trust factor where you guys all trust each other that you will come through in those big moments. Where does that come from, and how was that developed throughout the season?
Yeah, just like I said, like playing for each other. Like play for your brother. It's like this mentality, and like it has been stronger on this team than anything I've ever seen. Of just like we want each other to freaking do good, and we see the value of it. That the team does good, and we're doing good individually, like we see that and we bought in. But I think it just comes from just a genuine like love for your brother, and like a matter of just wanting them to succeed.
So I've had an opportunity to play with some big-time players, Robert Morris, the freight train back at BYU time, or Edgerrin James running back at the Colts. And when they would make a big play, the entire team would skyrocket, Richie, like skyrocket. When I'm watching Keba Keita, and he has one of those trailing blocks or one of those volleyball spike-like blocks, what's it like being on the court with him as a teammate in that moment?
Yeah, he doesn't get enough credit. I 100% believe it, but I love it, man. Like, it's just a matter of like what he does and brings to the table is unique, and it's just like I'm just trying to work through the words. But say I'm going down the lane, I'm on defense, and my guy's coming down. I know that if I just don't foul him, keep my hands up, and just kind of change the guy's shot, I know that Keba's there. And like that is one of the best things in the world, knowing that you got that line of defense behind you, knowing that you can count on that. And that's just what he does. And but it's I think it was at Utah when he just freaking volleyball slammed into the stands. Like it's so fun, man.
Well, the thing that you guys have going, obviously, this is memories that you're going to carry for the rest of your life, but you want to keep going as long as you possibly can and punch your ticket to the Final Four. How do you balance enjoying the moment and still making it a business trip and still staying focused?
Yeah, I mean, we've just, like, I feel like just as a team, like we see that we're focused is what I'm trying to say. We're focused, and we see like it is great, but like we're here to move forward and win, and we actually can see that we can do that. It's a possibility, and so I think the excitement comes from winning, right? It's just simple what it is. That's what's happening. That's why I think Cougar Nation's excited, right? Of course, but also like we're excited about the task at hand, and we are focused and really getting ready for this thing, but. It's definitely a balance, but I feel like if you put your excitement in the preparation and in the focus of getting ready for a big game and winning, like that's when it's the most fun, at least for a player.
A couple more days of evaluation and preparation for Alabama. What do you see from them, Richie, and how excited are you to be on the court against this team?
They're an incredible team, and it's gonna be freaking fun. Like they similar style of play, playing fast, and they play hard, which is exactly what we do. And you expect a lot of transition buckets from them. right? Like they get most of their shots up the first 10 seconds of the shot clock. Like they're trying to get the shots up, and so it's fun. It's great for us because if we can see that, we can see where we need to we call it a tight shell, shrink the floor, and then get a board, and we're out. And so I think it's a great matchup for us, and we're it's fun to like our coaches they've clearly been running around the block, so they're okay with like during practice we take what we like the plan, take it, watch it on film, evaluate it, and just keep moving forward. It's a cool little evolution of getting ready for the game, and that's exactly what's going on right now.
I know you've had to answer a ton of questions about tater tots, and I know that you're tired of that. But I was looking at your bio on the team website, and it wasn't the tater tots that jumped out at me, because as a guy who spends a lot of afternoons and a lot of evenings in my shop on a lathe, you're a wood turner.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have I've kind of had to decide to put that up for a little bit. My hands and fingers are kind of important right now, but yeah, growing up, that's kind of was like my little outlet from basketball.
So what, pens, bowls, like what would you do?
Yeah, bowls, honestly. Yeah.
Yep. I love it.
I want to know though, Richie, like this great grandpa of yours that invented tater tots, how well did you know this, or how well did you know about that, and what part of Idaho or Oregon was he in? Because Scotty and I both grew up in Idaho. Yeah.
So first of all, he grew up in, I cannot remember what it's called, but it's right on the border of Oregon and Idaho. And so that's the Oregon, Idaho right there. But, like growing up, I of course knew about it. It's something I would just tell, like first day of school, like introduce yourself, throw a fun fact, or 2 truths and a lie, like that kind of a thing. And that's literally all it was until about, I don't know, two weeks ago, and it was like, like it ended up just kind of blowing up. But yeah, that's kind of the extent of it. But we always knew it, talking about it growing up. It's kind of it was just kind of a random fact that was there.
It's got to be surreal seeing Charles Barkley talk about it.
Yeah, isn't that hilarious, man?
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Before we let you go, give me your. Let's turn you into Coach Saunders here for a second. What do you guys need to do to get past Alabama and get to the Elite Eight?
Yeah, we got to be really tight on this defensive end, and really limiting their second chance points, as well as just not letting them, like their defense or whatever, dictate our offense. We got to just play our game. So sum it up. Tight shell on defense, rebound, and play our basketball.
There we go.
Go get him, Richie.
Richie, good luck, man.
Hey, thank you.
There he was, Richie Saunders from Hans and Scotty. Yesterday, Ben Anderson filling in. The dudes are down at RGS Exteriors. We are.
The Tater Tot King of Chicago.
Salt Lake.
Yeah.
Now in New Jersey. Speaking of in New Jersey, earlier today we did get to catch up with Kevin Young. He had his press conference as BYU gets ready to take on Alabama in the Sweet 16. Here's what BYU head coach Kevin Young had to say about the game.
We're excited to be here. Excited to advance in this tournament and have a chance to keep playing. Obviously, Alabama's a great team, super well coached, and tall task for us. But have our guys feel like we're in a really good mental place, and we're just excited to get to the game.
Take questions at this time. We'll start here in the front row middle.
Rich Harris from Hoops Prospects. Coach, I thought you have done a masterful job of using your substitutes, and you're as deep as Alabama, really. You go about 11 deep. It seems to me that the pattern has changed in an attempt to improve your defense, I'd say over maybe the last 15 games or so. Is that true? And what is the method to your madness?
It's definitely madness because I wasn't planning on playing 11 guys this late in the year, but usually you go the other way. But I think it's just learning the group, honestly. It's obviously a new team. College is new for me, so there was a lot of things that just the whole season's been a huge learning curve for me. as it relates to some of the things you mentioned with defense and stuff, it's turning into that. Yeah, I mean, we feel like, Mawut came in and gave us, kind of somebody who we can put on other team's best, perimeter player oftentimes. And then, Trey Stewart's been able to kind of come in and spell him at times to do that. So we feel like we've always got somebody out there, athletically that can compete with some of the dynamic guards that you got to face. So that's helped. I think just overall, playing as many guys as we have all year, particularly in the last, like you said, 15 games or so, I think it's probably been one of the biggest things that's helped our season just in terms of our togetherness. Everyone, has pushed each other in practice, and everybody knows that they're going to get a chance to go out and help contribute the game. And I think that in and of itself has really, like I said, brought the guys closer together and gave us a real lift.
We'll stay here in the front row, and then we'll go to second row. Then we'll go to the other side. Adam?
Hey, Kevin. Adam Zagoria from NJ.com. How you doing? Welcome to Newark. You mentioned the learning curve. Just what are some of the advantages, I guess, of your NBA background? How do you think that's helped you in college? How much of the NBA stuff are you able to use? And how much do you think it helps you recruit, elite players that you have that background?
I think probably where it's helped the most is I'm big on reference points, and so in the NBA, I was fortunate to be pretty much every year in the NBA was on a good team that made it to the playoffs and oftentimes deep runs in the playoffs. And so by virtue of that, you're putting together 100-game plans a season. You're part of that, and obviously geared towards stopping the best players in the world. And so, I reference many of those game plans often with our coaching staff and with our players. I think when you can say, oh, hey, this is how we stopped Dame Lillard, or this is how we stopped, whoever, that kind of gives them the bright eyes and they listen a little bit more. So that's been definitely one area. I think there's some other areas too. A lot of the spacing in the NBA, I think, is a lot different than it is in college. It's something that I was huge on when I was in the NBA, and that's helped us for sure. Style of play, shot diet, things like that. I think that's probably where you see a lot of what we do. It's similar to some NBA operations. In terms of recruiting, I kind of planted the flag when I got the job and said I wanted to make BYU the best place in all of college basketball to help guys get to the league. And so I think we're off to a good start there. I think Richie Saunders is a prime example of, just our development structure. It's not just me. I've got our head strength coach with the Bucks for 8 years. I brought a nutritionist with me from the Suns. Our director of analytics came with me from the Suns. I got 2 guys who were former G League head coaches on my staff. A couple of GAs that played pro for a long time. And so our whole operation is basically designed to have a development background. And then when I'm able to kind of tell the story of, guys I've coached or experiences I've had, that certainly has resonated with players across the board.
There he was, Kevin Young from this morning's press conference, getting you ready for BYU and Alabama tomorrow. Speaking of which, coming up on the other side, assuming I am still with you, we're going to be catching up with a reporter down in Alabama, getting you ready for this game. Ben Anderson filling in for Hans and Scotty. Stick around, more next. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Number one. Miss any part of the show? Every moment of every show is available in podcast form by searching Hans and Scotty on your favorite podcasting platform or online at KSLSports.com. This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Ben Anderson stepping in momentarily as we are getting the boys connected down at RGS Exteriors today. They're going to be there until 3 o'clock. Coming up in a few minutes, they are going to catch up with Ryan Fowler, who's a radio host down in Alabama, getting you ready for this game tomorrow night in what's quickly become one of the biggest games in recent BYU history. Interesting teams, Alabama and BYU matching up with one another, both very high-paced and high-scoring offenses. Alabama is beatable if you can keep them to a relatively low-scoring night, and I don't mean 60 points. I mean, Alabama is 5-5 this year when they fail to reach 85 points. 85 points is a lot in college basketball. It's hard to get there, but Nate Oates' team really does have an ability to put a lot of points on the board, so it's not that common. Only 10 times this year they've been held below 85, but as I mentioned, just 5-5 in that stretch. So when you look at BYU, they've got to find a way to keep that up. Let's throw it down to Hans and Scotty at RGS Exteriors. What's going on, guys?
Hey, Ben, how you doing?
Doing well.
You know, I put the over-under on before I saw the line. I put it at 175, and boom, I nailed it because this is going to be one of the more – for those of you out there, and I think, Ben, you kind of lean into this a little bit, although you're a little bit more politically correct than David Locke is. NBA is a superior game. There's no doubt.
Of course.
But if there are people out there that want to hate on college basketball, this is the game you need to watch. Because this is as close to an NBA game as you're going to get in the college ranks in the NCAA tournament. This is going to be a fun game.
Two really good offenses. Both have really experienced players. Sears for Alabama, Saunders, of course, for BYU. And then both interesting. Both have guards that are going to be picked right there, late lottery, just outside the lottery.
Yeah.
LeBaron Philon for Alabama and Yegor Demon. Maybe Yegor jumps up a little bit higher. Philon probably won't. But, yeah, fun matchups and really, really good coaching battle here. Nate Oates certainly one of the best in the business.
Ben, thanks for hanging out with us, man. We appreciate it, and we owe you big.
My pleasure, guys.
All right. Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. You just heard Ben Anderson breaking down the game. You heard our conversation with Richie Saunders as well. We're out and about today. We are live, Hans, here at RGS.
RGS is the best, and, you know, you've got those crazy projects coming out of the winter. Your siding on your house is warping, or your gutter is leaking or falling off the house, and RGS is here to help. And one of our favorites, Greg, is here to kind of give us some thoughts on this. And Greg, you know, this is the time. The weather's starting to turn. You've seen what's happened to your house through the winter. It's time to get your house fixed up.
This is the time.
Oh.
Give us a call.
Just a sec. Let's unmute your...
I don't even know where the mute thing is. Our tech left. You know what, Greg? Hang in there. We'll get to you here in a second. We apologize. But while we're waiting and getting things set up here, let's talk a little Alabama basketball as Ryan Fowler kind enough to join us right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Hey, this should be a fun one. We're fired up to see this game. You got two elite offenses. What's the mood there in Tuscaloosa heading into this thing?
You know, it's like which Alabama team is going to show up, right? It's one of those that, you know, they played like this the entire season. We've seen the best of times, and then we've seen where this team just goes out and just lays an egg. You know, we see them play Auburn on the road in their place, and they go and beat the number one team in the country. But then you see them, you know, just it's almost like this team is just like a big roller coaster. They have really, really highs, but then they also have a lot of lows. And if it's, you know, and that's what we're hoping is good basketball. Everybody that we've been on this week that have kind of gave us a little bit of a Vegas perspective, they keep saying, take the over, that these two teams will play in the hundreds. That's kind of the expectation going in, that this will be a high-scoring, fast-paced game, and I hope the officials are in shape.
Watch back on both these games. Robert Morris and St. Mary's. Robert Morris for the first half and into the second was keeping pace. What was Robert Morris doing that was causing problems that got him to 81 points against this Alabama team?
I think it was Alabama. I think it was more of self-inflicted, right? I mean, it was they kind of put it on cruise control, and we saw that early. I think it was 46-44. Then Alabama, Grant Nelson, as you guys know, has been suffering from it looked like a severe knee injury at the SEC tournament, and then he ended up having according to Nate Oates, they dodged a really big bullet. I mean, they thought it was more severe, and so he was not able to go in that Robert Morris game until about 8 minutes to go in the game, and he stood up at Coach Nate Oates and said, put me in. I mean, at that point, I mean, you thought Alabama was going to get beat by Robert Morris. I mean, it was like the momentum had shifted. I think he could feel that because, you know, that would be like his last collegiate game. He looked at Nate Oates and said, put me in. And at that point, they put him in. Alabama seemed to be a different team, and you even saw that you know, on Sunday, you know, as they turned around and was able to knock out St. Mary's. I mean, you saw a much different team, and just in two games, right? The roller coaster that I explained, they just kind of put it on cruise control. Hey, Robert Morris, no big, you know, hey, it's okay. We just kind of put it on cruise control, and I think a lot of that's probably the talent of this team. That at times they look like a team that's coming into their own, and then all of a sudden they slip back. So if you're playing the 50-50 odds, I don't know what team will show up, and it seems like Alabama's kind of due for another one of those, put you to sleep, kind of like one of those type of things. Cruise control is what I call it. It's really unique to follow this team because they have the potential. Going into the season, we thought, okay, this is the best team in the country. We had all these analytic guys on. This team is, analytically speaking, could be one of the best college basketball teams that we've seen, in 5 to 7, 10 years. And really it's been, I won't say disappointment because you're in the Sweet 16, but it's not been maybe where Alabama fans expected it.
So when you look at this team, and yes, this is a Ken Pomeroy's dream of a team. There's no doubt about it in Alabama and how they run things. It's either 3 points or at the rim or at the free throw line. Is this something that Nate Oates has always envisioned, and it was from day one that he wanted to develop this? Or kind of walk us through the evolution of who Nate Oates is and how he's come to run this team the way that he has?
Well, you got to go back, and I think this is the part that you appreciate Nate Oates, because for those in the medical field, and I was a EMT before I got into radio, we call it asystole, which is the flat line on the cardiac monitor, right? No pulse. Okay, Alabama basketball was asystole. They were flat line. There's some nurses out there going, "Wow, that guy's sports talk radio guy talking about cardiac rhythms." We had no pulse. They had no energy. This program was dead in the water. It just, coming out of Avery Johnson, Anthony Grant, there was no energy. And now he has literally flipped the script. Okay, we are a college football show. We do 4 hours, 5 days a week, really nothing but Alabama football. Well, Nate Oates has changed that in Tuscaloosa. And he's changed that because he really took a lot of the Nick Saban blueprint of going out and recruiting and going out and getting the top players and basically, playing in the recruiting game with UNC and Duke and teams that, I know that Alabama lost a big recruit to BYU, but they have played this recruiting side of things. That's where he's been able to build it. And I think the system, we had Chris Youngblood on live a couple of days ago, and I said, what did you transfer in? Because they've also been able to benefit, with Big Cliff coming from Rutgers. You've got Chris Youngblood transferring in, Grant Nelson coming in 2 years ago. He's been able to attract those players that they're analytically able to see. They've got a unique analytic team that can take a player, plug in his percentages, and say, this is what we're going to be able to do in this offense. So that's where they're able to sell for that grad student that only has, 1 year or, a transfer that, looking to go to the NBA. This is a system that matches up with the NBA. It's that style of play, that you guys know a lot about there in BYU country. But really it's the culture that he's changed. I mean, if I told you basketball tickets are harder to get in Tuscaloosa than Alabama football, would you believe me?
Nope.
No.
I mean, that's the truth. It's the truth. That's what Nate Oates has changed. He's literally changed the culture. We now take questions and guests about basketball. and that started about 2.5, 3 years ago. And I started getting phone calls like, wow, this has really changed. He literally changed it overnight. This is the third Sweet 16, last year's Final Four run. But it's the recruiting, and he's created a conversation. I've been doing radio in Tuscaloosa for 25 years. It's my 25th year in Tuscaloosa. I've never seen it like this. Other than when they get ready to fire a coach, he's changed the entire culture with Alabama basketball in Tuscaloosa.
That's incredible. That's just incredible. So, Ryan, our guy Scotty here, he calls the games for Utah State and has for a lot of years. And we've been covering the state of Utah for 20 years, each of us. So a lot of time and watching a lot of basketball. And I don't know, and Scotty, I don't know if you've looked at the final 9 games of Alabama's regular season or into the tournament, but this is the craziest 9-game stretch I've ever seen a team finish with. Auburn twice, Kentucky twice, Florida twice. So they had 2 1 seeds 2 times to finish in the final 9 games. The final 9 games, every one of them was against a top 25 ranked team. We talk about the Refiners Fire, Ryan. This is a Refiners Fire. They came out of it 4-5, but do you feel like they came out of that Refiners Fire a different team?
Absolutely. I mean, take a look at the final 4 games. Look at the final 4 games in the regular season. They started out with Mississippi State. They won that. Then they went to Tennessee and was talking about that roller coaster. They let that one slip away. I mean, they had Tennessee beat up there and just let it slip away. Then you played Auburn here. Florida here. Florida ran you completely out of the gym. And they came to Tuscaloosa and just ran you completely out of the gym. It was ugly. Even though the score, you look at the score, that score is misleading. Trust me. I mean, there was never a point in that second half that you thought Alabama was going to win the game. And then they go to Auburn and win it. I mean, think about that. I mean, 2-2, because we had analytical people on that literally told us that 4-game stretch, now I'm not including the games that you included, but that 4-game stretch, they said, was the hardest 4-game stretch in the history of college basketball. Wow. And I stopped him, and I said, are you sure? He said, it's not even close. Where our analytics show us that there's never been a 4-game stretch like that, where you played that quality of opponents to finish. I mean, as you said, Tennessee in the top 5, Florida in the top 5, then they jumped to the top team, and then when Mississippi State also ranked in the top 25, that there was never that type of schedule, and Alabama was able to finish 2-2. So they're battle tested. I think the SEC, that's another part of the country. SEC's kind of lost a little bit of their grasp, but Lord, please don't let this get back to Tuscaloosa. But it seems like SEC football has kind of maybe, I don't want to say drifted, but it's kind of regressed back to the mean. And basketball's taken off. And I'm trying to put my finger on how that's happened. I don't know if it's the NIL. I don't know if they've started investing more. But it's 14 teams in the SEC, and I know people love to take shots at the Southeastern Conference, but this was a historic season. I mean, it was every ticket prices. It was crazy. Every other day, you would have a top 25, top 10 matchup inside Coleman Coliseum. I said every other day, every other week. It was just crazy, the ticket, man. I mean, we literally had people fighting for tickets. Can you give me tickets? Can you give me tickets? And that wasn't even like that for Alabama football.
Before we let you go, what makes Mark Sears so special there at Alabama?
Oh, wow. He can do everything. But here's the issue. He's been in a big slump. He's been a guy that has not been as consistent. And I know Nate Oates had talked about that, getting him back into Tuscaloosa, getting his shot together, maybe getting him back in his gym after the SEC tournament. And, he's another guy that, he can go out and do the things that he's able to do. But he's been a little bit, streaky at times. And this is if you remember back in one of the games early in the season, failed to show up. Was zero. And came back, took, like 1,500 shots, kind of got his game back, got his confidence back. That is something to keep an eye on, because I don't know what BYU did, but Alabama did not come back to Tuscaloosa. They went straight from Cleveland to Newark, there in New Jersey. So they didn't come back home. I almost wonder, if that could impact him, because I know they talked about getting him back to Tuscaloosa, getting his shot together after the SEC tournament, kind of getting some of that confidence back. But he's a fun player to watch. He's been an ultimate leader, but as far as on the court, no doubt. I mean, he could take over a game. But he's been a little bit on the cold side for Mark Sears, type of player. If he gets that 3-point going, and that's the thing, is his range is so much. I mean, you'll think there's no way, and he drops a shot from way beyond the 3-point marker.
Well, we appreciate your time. Thanks for hanging out with us, and enjoy the game coming up on Thursday. Should be a fun one. We're fired up for it.
We thank you guys so much. Thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Great stuff. Great conversation as we get you ready for BYU and Alabama. We talk about Mark Sears and him being in a bit of a slump. The last 6 games from the 3-point line, he is 5 of 35 from the 3-point line. That
would play well for BYU.
That would play very well. But you always get nervous about that, because you're like, this guy is a 35% 3-point shooter with that 5 of 35 stretch in there. So that
averages are
capable.
averages.
He's gonna bounce out of it eventually.
But I thought that was interesting information Ryan just gave us. They went for Cleveland right out to Newark.
Yeah.
They didn't come home. BYU did come home.
They did.
Not that anybody was slumping as bad as that for BYU, but you need to come home and reset on your home court, your home practice, and your home screen, and sitting in your facilities, and you got to reset. And BYU did that and then headed back out to Newark, but it sounds like Alabama decided,
let's keep them on the road.
I'm going to stay on this side of the country and head to New Jersey.
I know that academics is really important at Alabama, too.
Oh,
so, they kept them away from the classroom. That's got to be surprising.
Do you think he was exaggerating with the football, basketball?
I wanted to follow up and talk
crazy.
about Kellen DeBoer because I know that he's public enemy number one now because he's not winning national championships like Nick Saban.
You have to.
Yeah.
Is that the craziest 9-game finish, though, you've heard of?
Just insane. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
You're locked on to Hans Olsen and Scotty G. That's right. Yeah! On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. It is another edition of Win Ticket Wednesday right here on the Zone. Your chance to win big this Wednesday. Today, we're giving away tickets, and we're giving away right now, 801-575-ZONE. And you will win tickets to go see The Offspring. Supercharged worldwide in 25 tours, September 6th at the Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater. The Offspring also being at the show, Jimmy Eat World and Newfound Glory. Get tickets right now at livenation.com or just call and grab your tickets right now here at the Zone. Win Ticket Wednesday.
So we just entered into, really quick on what you may have missed, we just entered into week 2 of Utah Spring Ball. And everybody's interested in Coach Beck and Dampier and what this offense is going to look like. And guess what all the talk was about yesterday's practice? Nate Johnson.
Yeah.
So for those of you that don't know a lot about Nate Johnson, what he is he's an athletic freak. He's a utility tool. He can do a lot of things. So this is what I'm sure about. Coach Beck, and what I know of him as an offensive coordinator, is going to find a way to use Nate Johnson.
Yes.
More than just a backup quarterback, he'll find some wrinkle or some way to use him. You can't let an athletic freak he's not – I mean, the Utah fans, they've seen him. They've seen him in action, so they know his movements. Lloyd, you know his movements. Scotty, you've seen him. You know his movements. Yeah. So you know what he can do. He's not Tyler Huntley in the terms of a quarterback, but he's got playmaking ability that extends past just a pocket passing quarterback. So find a way to use him. And so far in spring ball, he's made some waves. Coach Whittingham talked about him yesterday after practice, had a few comments. And then I've been looking at the defensive side because we've been talking all Utah offense, but the defensive side has some returning glory. The news of Levani Damuni returning for another year is so big. There's a couple of players that I'm waiting to see how they surface, guys like Elijah Ellis in his second year at that linebacking position, a guy like John Henry Daly, who was a transfer, and he was a guy that I was really excited about, and he did break the 2 deep and then kind of fell back into the 3 deep, but then back into the 2 deep last year. But he's a guy that really needs to make a move and do some big things this year. Aliki Viamahi is back at the defensive tackle position, and he is a beast. Logan Fano, now a year removed from his injury, should have a spectacular year. So spring ball's starting to shape up, and I can promise you this. What's looking to be Whittingham's last or final year as the head coach at the University of Utah. He's not going to just sit by and let this thing drift and float and then walk off into the sunset with his head down. Whittingham's creative. He's very competitive. Coach Beck is creative and competitive. Coach Beck had other opportunities, and he chose the University of Utah. So I think that these guys are going to work well together. And I'm still excited to see Coach Beck and Jim Harding together.
I am too.
Those are 2 really good minds.
Yeah.
Jim with great understanding of run blocks and certain pocket sets, and Coach Beck, great understanding on how to use offensive line play to better Dampier or better his position groups. Could be really good.
Bill Armstrong joins us next. Hans and Scotty, this is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Looking for the latest on the Jazz, Utes, Cougars, and Aggies? Yeah! We've got you covered. This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G on 97.5, the Sports Zone.
Hans Olsen, Scott Gerard, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. It is time for our weekly conversation with the man himself. He is the general manager of the Utah Hockey Club. It is Bill Armstrong. Bill, how the heck are you?
I'm doing great, gentlemen. How are you guys doing today?
We're doing well.
We miss you. Well. We miss you. We want to get you in studio for a 3-hour show when you can do it.
That's a lot of concentration. 3 hours in there. My God.
Maybe
I don't know about that.
Maybe when you have your slow season, maybe we'll work on maybe an hour.
An hour?
Yeah.
We'll start with an hour.
I like this. I like the sounds of that. An hour is pretty good. What would we talk about for 3 hours? 3 hours. I could talk hockey for 3 hours, so I guess we'll be okay there.
Yeah, we'll figure something out for sure. Hey, you got that big win against Tampa, and then a tough one the other night. How do you try to repeat that performance that you had against Tampa?
Well, listen, they're one of the best teams in the National Hockey League, and it's great for us to go in and play them. We give them a pretty good game at home, and now we got to go on the road and play them in Tampa tomorrow night. It's a big one for us. And this is what we talked about, playing meaningful games. It's the pressure to know that you got to go in and play one of the best teams in the National Hockey League, and you need a win. To keep pace with the other teams. So it's truly perfect for our group, as we have one of the youngest teams, and you get to do battle against one of the best teams. So it's going to be a great game. Can't wait for the challenge.
Well, if I'm starting to learn this game like I think I'm learning this game, I feel like everybody in the NHL has the memory of an elephant. They just hang on to everything. And I got to imagine Tampa Bay sitting on that 6-4 loss, and they're just waiting to deliver a blow. Do you guys kind of take that into consideration as you head into Tampa?
100%. They're not going to get caught, by surprise, about how good we are. They're going to be ready for us. They're going to be ready to play. So it's going to be a heck of a game. They're going to put their big goaltender in net, and it's going to be a battle for us all night long. But I like when we have to play the big boys of the NHL. I think it's a great thing for our team, and we've got to play them under pressure. So I like our odds. I like our team and how we rise to the occasion. So it's going to be a great opportunity for us.
One of the tough things, Bill, was watching that Detroit game and seeing Vejmelka at points struggle. I think that was his lowest save percentage in his career. And, there were just some things that kind of surrounded it. Is Vejmelka a little bit tired? I mean, he's been rid like a horse through this, and it's got to be tough. And what kinds of struggles is he dealing with, or did he deal with through that Detroit game?
Well, he had a couple unlucky goals that were fluky, and then a couple bad ones on him. So I think this is what when you play playoff games, you're not going to win all your playoff games. You're going to have a couple bad nights in there, and you got to bounce back, and you got to get that muscle memory about how to come back and play your best hockey after playing some of your worst hockey. And this is, for our group, not only the players, but also Veggie and Net has got to have a huge bounce back and have a short memory and get back to business. So he's got a couple of days off here, which we love, and he's recouping and, using some of that beautiful Tampa sun to kind of get energized and ready to play in a big game tomorrow night.
I loved Andre Tierney was talking about, are you using him too much? And he goes, yeah, but that's our situation we're in, and so you better just buck up and deal with it. So he's like, yeah, we're riding that horse pretty hard, but you know what? He gets paid a lot of money, so he better show up. And it is what it is. There's no getting around it. You're gonna have to go to that well a lot. And for the most part, I think he's handled it well.
He has. He's done a great job. He's played a lot of games, and I think it's also like people don't realize, like sometimes when you got a really good backup behind you or a goaltender that's even, you've got this nice relief valve that, hey, if it doesn't go well for me, the other guy will go in that. And And Veggie doesn't have that right now. He's the only guy, that's been, that high notch of quality goaltending. And he's the only one right now that can provide that for us. And not to say Jackson Stauber can't jump in net, but he hasn't been a regular in the National Hockey League. So he's got a little bit of pressure, Veggie on his back, and he's done a good job with it all year. And here we go. We're gonna ride that horse all the way to the finish line.
Well, 11 games remaining, Bill, and, a lot of focus, and you're still just statistically, you're far from out of this thing. How committed, how laser-focused are these guys game to game to making sure they stay in this race?
Well, you got to focus one game at a time, and this is about us. It's not about anybody else. It's about us, and you got to work on, whether it's, our power play, our penalty kill, our forecheck, whatever it is. It's about the process for us and staying laser focused on getting our team better and any way we can, and going out there and playing our best hockey at this time of the year. And that's what it's about. And our guys have done a great job being focused on that, and and just concentrating one game at a time and not looking at the scoreboard. Because it could be depressing, the fact that St. Louis has won 7 games in a row.
Yeah.
And Calgary's won 4 games in a row. Those things are out of your control. You have no control over that. But what you do have is control over your team and your improvement in the process and all the little things that it takes to win games in the National Hockey League. So that's been the message to our group. Worry about us. Don't worry about anybody else, and dive in and be focused.
So Gunther reaches 100 career NHL points with his team. He's got that 26 goals that reached on Monday. Cooley 2 points away from 100. Are these guys on the trajectory? Are they ahead of schedule? Kind of give me your thoughts on where these guys are at right now, because it's been really fun watching them progress.
Yeah, I mean, both those guys have been tremendous for us. They've been big parts of our team. The way that we love about them is those kids are always trying to get better. They're pushing every game to get better, and Coach did a nice job with those with them coming in early on in their career. They're as a young player, they've got talent, but they're a little wild and and a little bit all over the place. And both Logan and Gunther have done a nice job at coming in and playing 200 feet of hockey, defense and offense, and being consistent. And they've taken major steps in their career. So I kind of think that they're right where they're supposed to be. And here they are in the fight, helping us and having impact every single night, and helping us drive to get into the playoffs.
Bill, you were talking about that Tampa Sun, and I was out at that Tampa arena, and it's just right there by the aquarium. It's right there off the kind of the inlet, so you got beach all around it. I really want to kind of reach out to Utah Hockey Club fans. Like, if you're ever going to take a trip, get on an airplane sometime today or early tomorrow morning and getting out to Tampa. That's a pretty incredible arena out there. How well is it attended out there?
They've done a great job from the ownership of Tampa. They were at one point a laughingstock of the NHL, and they've done an amazing job at becoming a premier hockey club in this league. And one of the reasons is their owner has done an amazing job at building up the city of Tampa around the arena and the water and it's just incredible place. It's incredible vibe. People come in to have dinner and drinks before the game, and it's just an awesome arena. So they're a premier organization in the National Hockey League, and it's just a great area. And I would encourage Utah fans to come in and come see us play on the road, and this would be a great place.
Well, the reason I mention it, Bill, is because I got Detroit Red Wings fans throwing octopus on our ice, and it's like, all right, Utah Hockey Club fans, you better get out there, because I've been to quite a few games this year, Bill, in that arena and covering this team, and I've been shocked, whether it's Avalanche fans or Detroit fans or Anaheim fans. They're loud, and they definitely travel.
Well, I think it's part of every league now, whether you're in the NFL or Major League Baseball or, the NBA, the fans travel. That's a big part of it, and Detroit had a pretty good following in our building, which, is good in some sense because it does, create, your fans to have a back and forth banter between them. But fans do travel, especially in our league, and I love it when I see Utah fans on the road. There's nothing better to see that jersey in the stands. It's a great. You go for warm up, and they're all gathered around the glass. So I couldn't encourage our fans anymore. Just get out to come see us on the road. We love it. We appreciate it.
So Sergey's got a big homecoming game. Stenlin's got a big one coming up on Friday. How is a player? How hard is it to keep those emotions in check when you're going up against former teammates and former teams?
Well, I think it's great, to be honest. I think, Sergey is such a pro. He's going to rise to that occasion, probably play one of his best games of the year, and Stenlin same way. And you do got to control your emotions, but you also want to play hard against your old team and show everybody that you made the right choice to go to your new team. So I think it's just a great thing where, those are two of our top players, and they're going to be ready to play against their old teams.
Bill, do you have any idea or understanding about the start of the renovation for the arena and the potential finish? Have they given you any indicators of when that's going to start and potentially finish?
Well, that's a little bit above my pay grade, but from what I hear, hopefully it'll start as soon as our season's ended. And then, as soon as we start our season, it should be done. In that time period. So SEG does an amazing job at starting projects and getting them done on time. So it's been fascinating to watch. But from our locker room or the Oval, which we put a temporary practice facility, was all done right on time. And the same thing with coming up with our new practice facility out in South Jordan. They're going to be on time for that too. So that's what I kind of know about the renovation. It'll start as soon as our season ends, and we should be ready to go as soon as the NHL season starts up.
Well, I can't wait, man. This is really fun seeing the development of this team and the facilities and everything that goes along with it. But Bill, we appreciate your time as always, and looking forward to catch up again next week.
Yeah, let's get the win tomorrow, gentlemen. Thank you for your time.
Let's do it, Bill.
Yeah, absolutely. Bill Armstrong, general manager, Utah Hockey Club. The statistical odds of Utah making the playoffs right now is at about 4.5%.
Yeah.
So it's not great.
And it's because of St. Louis.
Yeah, exactly.
They're making this run.
Yeah.
Bill's former team.
Yeah. It's got to be St. Louis.
Hey, Bill, make a call.
Yeah, tell them to chill out a little bit.
Do something, man.
Yeah.
Because this is a bummer. I am feeling it slip out of my fingers, out of my grasp. And it's like, dang. But I'm still excited about NHL postseason. It'd be fun to see the blue and white out there.
Well, I think, in the spirit of education and in our gaining knowledge of the
evolution
of the sport, the evolution of us as hockey aficionados and experts, that Lloyd, I think the three of us need to make a road trip, maybe to Denver, maybe somewhere to go watch some playoff hockey and cover playoff hockey.
You mean cover?
Yeah.
And I understood exactly what you meant. And, whether that's a run to Denver or potentially a run to Las Vegas. I mean, who?
Oh, yeah.
Vegas is just a hop, skip, and jump. And they're
or both.
They're only kind of good. Maybe both, just for the betterment of our understanding.
Again, just for educational purposes only.
A quick, easy flight is Dallas. Another driving site would be Los Angeles Kings.
Yes.
So maybe we get out to one of each.
I think that and I think there's plenty of coffers in the budget for that.
How amazing would that be?
Yeah.
The three of us fly to Vegas for game one.
Yeah.
Fly out to
I
LA.
won't do it unless there's some sort of hands-free eating going on. I won't do it.
Oh, no. This is blow out the budget coverage, so we're flying everywhere.
Yes.
Fly out to LA for game two, for their game two.
Yeah.
Get out to Denver for their game three. And then maybe get out to Dallas for their game four.
I think that's certainly more than capable.
Well, we got to cover the West, bud.
Yeah, I know, right?
We got to know what these teams are up to.
Exactly.
What their talent's all about.
And so next year, if heaven forbid the Utah Hockey Club does not make the playoffs this year, when they do make the playoffs next year, we're prepared and we're educated on what playoff hockey looks like and feels like.
Right. And we're still not letting our egos get involved.
No.
We're still being humble because we're not asking to fly into Canada.
No, we're not going to Calgary or Ottawa or Winnipeg.
Or Edmonton. We're just saying the furthest is Dallas.
Dallas, that's it.
I want to go watch some live postseason play, man.
Maybe Vancouver.
Okay, but that's in the budget.
Yeah. I mean,
that's an easy place to get to.
Unless you've been blacklisted by the Canadians. That's just a quick trip to Seattle and right across the border.
Have you been blacklisted?
What year are we?
Was it a 2-year waiting?
That happened in 2021. It's a 5-year period.
Okay, we're getting close. Maybe they'll overlook it.
2026.
We'll just bring a big box of donuts and hand it over to the Mounties and be like, "Hey, wink, wink. He's really sorry." And they're like, "Hey,
They'll be
come
like,
on, hey."
Wind chills. And they'll throw it back in our face.
Wind chills.
Only the best for us.
That's not even heated. Hey?
Get that Krispy Kreme out of here. Only Tony Hortons for us.
For those of you that are just tuning in to the Hanson Scotty Show for the first time, I had a little issue at the Canadian border in 2021. And
somebody tried to, Canada was never considering a wall until Hans tried to broach its borders in the middle of COVID.
Me, my 4 kids, my beautiful wife, and my mom all held for 3 hours.
Because a immigration expert working at Taco Bell told you that it would be fine and that you could easily go across the border.
It was a manager of Taco Bell in Niagara, New York, that said all you need is your driver's license with a star on it.
Just this taco sticker will work.
They're like,
show them this taco sticker.
They're like, "Hey, do you have the what was that sucker that had the Indian with the star on it?"
Oh, that was the Tootsie Roll.
The Tootsie Roll one. Like, if you've got one of those, you can go to Canada real easy.
Oh, my gosh, those suckers were so good. And you got a free one every time you had that.
Yep.
Firing the arrow. It was firing an arrow at a star, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was an Indian with an arrow and the star. Yeah.
Firing it at a star.
Yep.
Dude, sometimes you take me back to the best times of my life. Park Street.
I know, right?
Right across from our, it was 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. Right across the street, kitty corner. It was a place called Park Street. The dirtiest, dingiest, nastiest little gas station you could ever think of. And it was 10 cents.
Yep. Dime will always get you one.
I would dig through that sucker box for as long as it took to find the ones with the star.
Yeah.
Every time.
And then you flip that wrapper over and like, I'll have another one.
I'll have another on you.
Yes.
And they always let me.
Oh, yeah.
Dang, but no, that's not what got me into Canada.
Chocolate? That was always my favorite.
You like chocolate?
Yeah.
I was always the red one, which I think was raspberry.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
there were only 3. Well, no, there were 4: orange, red, blue, and chocolate.
Chocolate. Yeah, I always liked the chocolate on chocolate because then when you get to that center, then the chocolate would work. The Tootsie Roll would work with the chocolate.
How long would you suck on that sucker before you had to bite through to the Tootsie?
Like 3 or 4.
3 or 4.
I was crunching on that thing fast.
Yeah, I'm the same, dude. Because I get hungry.
I know.
That Tootsie Roll substance.
I want to sit here and wait.
Dang, dude, those are good days, man. No, but that Canada's not going to let me in for a bit.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll get there. Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
It's time to saddle up and talk about the winners and the losers. This is the good, the bad, and the ugly. Now, here's the good.
It is the good, it is the bad, it is the ugly right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. We'll start with the good. Hans, the Jazz last night, led by as many as 14 points, were scorching hot in the first half, shooting the ball. And then this little thing called the second half started.
It's as bad as it could possibly be, too. The second half is an embarrassment. I was reading Ben's story. Cody Williams, Walker Kessler, Keontae George, and Bryce Sensabaugh all combined to shoot 0 of 13 in the second half. You can read that entire story at KSLSports.com. And it didn't just stop there. It was just hideous. A complete embarrassment and come apart.
Jazz outscored in the second half 76-38.
Well, you can see, and there's just been times in this season where you're like, at some point, Will Hardy's going to lose it.
Yeah.
He's a competitive sucker, and he's making a lot of money to lose a lot of games. And I don't care if it's intentional. I don't care if lineups mean something. When you've got that kind of lead and you're expecting your guys to potentially close out and finish off, you don't have to have this loss. You're right now, you're sitting comfortably in the second worst record in NBA, so you could afford a win.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, it might be nice to have one just to remind everybody, like, hey, we know what this feels like, right? It feels good. And Will Hardy's had it.
And Will Hardy addressing the media afterwards, and that's why it's in the good. The game itself, certainly not in the good, but Will Hardy's comments, absolutely yes.
A professional basketball player in the NBA and part of becoming an NBA team that's competing is the willingness to do simple things over and over again. I thought early in the game, the team on both sides of the ball was very active, connected, unselfish, and the second quarter, we had some pockets where our play wasn't perfect, but the second half was unrecognizable in almost every way. There's moments where stubbornness is cute, and there's moments where stubbornness is embarrassing. At some point, every person needs to look in the mirror and understand what's being asked of them and try to do it to the best of their ability at the highest level of intensity that they can. I'm a very competitive person, and there are moments where I feel like I'm having to restrain the core of who I am because there seems to be an unwillingness at times to understand that this is not something that you can take for granted. The NBA will stop for no one, and our program will stop for nobody. There needs to be accountability of self first, and everybody on our team needs to understand that opportunity should not be taken lightly. And a lot of our young players are getting the chance to play in games, to wear a Utah Jazz jersey, and to represent themselves. And ultimately, we all have to answer for our performances. I've talked a lot about how we carry ourselves meaning something to me, and those words are not hollow. That second half was really disappointing, and it's not representative of who we want to be as an organization. It's not representative of who I want us to be. There are very few times where I've been disappointed in our group, and tonight I'll drive home disappointed. But we have to all wake up tomorrow and get back to work. And it is one game. It is one half. I understand that. And I'll get some sleep and wake up tomorrow with perspective. But during the game, perspectives for the birds. The lights are on, you're competing, you're representing an organization, you're representing a fan base, our community. And that was just unacceptable.
can I ask, like, in maybe more particular terms, what you thought was lacking on the court?
Pass the mother ball. Run back on defense. When it's time to communicate what we're doing on defense, you should do it at a volume louder than I'm talking to you right now. When there is a loose ball, you need to want it more than the other team. You are a member of a team. This is not about you. This is not a personal workout for you. I could go on and on and on, but you get the point. It's a team game. And the moment that you make everything about yourself is the moment that it all goes bad. And it becomes an infection. One person does it, then another person does it. Oh, he didn't pass to me, so I'm like, it just... And then the energy goes down, and then our defensive intensity and individual pride goes out the window, and the communication goes out the window. And then after every play, it's like, well, he was supposed to do it, and it just becomes a finger pointing, and it's disappointing. Like, this is stuff that we talk about every day, and I understand that one game and one half shouldn't be something that any of us overreact to, but you know, you put a lot of time and energy into it, a lot of thought into it, a lot of emotional energy into it, and it's disappointing sometimes when you don't feel like people are pouring into themselves and understanding the opportunity that they have. I don't pretend to have all the answers. I'm a young coach. I'm still figuring a lot out. It's my 15th year in the NBA, and I've seen a lot of players make it, and I've seen a lot of guys behave in a way that if they could go back in time, they'd take it back. I thought we played like a team for about a half, and then it looked like a pickup game at Lifetime Fitness, where we just all met 10 seconds ago and we're all just kind of out here trying to get a workout.
Do you think shot making in the first half created a malaise in the second half?
I mean, I don't think so. You know, I think that would be letting everybody off the hook. You know, I do believe in the ability to just call it like it is, and I don't want us to get in the habit of giving ourselves an excuse. You know, this is back to what we talked about pregame, or actually it was postgame last game. It's not just what you do, it's how you do it. You can miss every shot and still leave knowing that you played in a way that is respectable. And yeah, the ball just didn't go in. That's what I'm concerned about. I don't want shot making to dictate our behavior. You know, when it's not going your way, it's easier to tell. But I mean, we still leave the game. We shot 40% from three. Like, it's not. We've had plenty of nights where we've left at 30%, and it's like, oh, we didn't make shots tonight, but the guys played hard. You know, they got 20 more shots than we did. We had 4 offensive rebounds for the game. Yeah, tonight's a tough one. Just I don't think that there's really an excuse to be made. I just don't think that we were connected at all in the second half.
Do you think that, like, you know, the NBA won't stop for no one, the program won't stop for no one, right? But, like, a lot of these young players see that right now it feels like there's infinite opportunity, but they're going to get minutes. The injury report, what it is, there are minutes to be had. So there's not like no one's taking them out of the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
So is there anything to that?
Yeah. I mean, sure, I think that could be part of it, but that would be very because the decisions that have to be made moving forward are much bigger than whether you get to play on Thursday. So, yeah, I think, Bobby Knight made that speech the one time about your butt on the bench and that sending a signal to your brain and, all that. That's funny, but it's true to a degree. But that's, again, to me, that's an excuse. You still know how you're supposed to behave. And it's not about the play, it's about the behavior. That's what bothers me. You dribble off your foot, you dribble off your foot. You shoot an air ball, you shoot an air ball. The other stuff is the part that keeps me up at night. Because, I truly think that that's the biggest part of development, is learning how to approach it every day. And, when you're lucky to be around the best players and you see how they are every day, it's not a mistake that the best guys are where they are. They have talent, but they also compound that by how they approach it every day. And those are the habits we're trying to build.
That's good stuff. Ooh, that's good stuff.
There's sometimes where it's I don't know if I want to play this in its entirety, but that one absolutely had to be played in its entirety.
Okay, so as I was listening to it, it's crazy because my ear, we're so tuned into the sports world. My ear is used to coach talk. It's used to, random or let's get through it or obscure. And then it's it'll perk up when there's a message.
Yep.
And there's certain things that just make me feel good to listen to. There's certain political commentary or there's certain religious commentary. There's certain historical things that I love to just sit and listen to, that it just feels good to listen to. Certain workout stuff and motivational things that feels good to listen to. I could sit and listen to that kind of talk all day.
Yep.
Because I need to hear that, Coach. Coach Hardy, thank you. On behalf of the Jazz fan base that's been paying a lot of money to come to those games, thank you. On behalf of a guy that played professional sports and you can see it, and you're watching the slide of certain players, and here in this market, we're just not used to the Jazz doing this. Thank you.
Yeah.
That felt so good to listen to. Instead of trying to make excuses and, we've got guys that are really up and coming and guys that are doing better. He was
just so young.
He said, we've got bigger decisions to make than who plays on Thursday.
I thought we played like a team for about a half. And then it looked like a pickup game at Lifetime Fitness.
I'm telling you, Scotty, Will Hardy has been dealt a very difficult hand. Yep. And I've had multiple, and I'm sure that people ask you this, I've had multiple people ask me, is Will Hardy a good coach? And I tell them, I'm not going to assess it until he's got a good player.
Yes.
Because this league isn't built of good coaches. This league is built of good players that make good coaches. So I'm not going to assess Will Hardy and his coaching ability. What I do like, now where I will start the assessment is when I hear those kinds of sound bites, and somebody's saying, well, what do you need him to do? Pass the MFing ball. I get it, Coach. I hear that. We had 4 offensive rebounds in a game. And you could hear the tone. I feel that, Coach. I get that. I can grasp that.
In some comments that he made that I think a lot of people you could tell that he was holding on to self-restraint by a fingernail. You could tell he really wanted to go, and yet was okay, I'm gonna still take the high road here a little bit. But you could tell that horse wanted to run, and I can't imagine what that locker room was like.
He was a whisper away from using a name or 2.
Oh yeah, yep.
Or 3.
Yep.
And when you start rolling out names, that's when it gets real. But You're 10, 11 games from the end of this season that has been a complete embarrassment for many purposeful reasons. I will not forget what this season is about. And that's why I'm not going to judge Coach Hardy about this season. But I think that was Sarah Todd that asked the question.
And a great question.
Great question, Sarah. is there complacency because these guys know they're just going to get minutes?
What are you going to do, bench me?
I thought that was a great question, and I do think that there's probably a part of that. These guys, they aren't being squeezed like it is when you've got the Golden State Warriors of 2016, and you're just trying to get a sniff of the court. And you would sacrifice your fattiest calf in order to get on that court. And that's not what these guys have.
Nope. But
they just got a lot of opportunity.
But then he dropped that line. We're having conversations more than just about playing time. And that's a big comment there.
You want to know what I want to do so bad? I want Lloyd to edit this. I want him to get the start of the real world when it says when people stop being nice and start getting real, and then just have those cuts of Will Hardy. Because that's good stuff.
That is. Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. A little whole world news coming up next.
Go! It's time to span the globe for the hard-hitting news you care about. Well, not really. But hey, at least we found it interesting. This is Whole World News on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
We've got the whole world in our hands. You got the whole world in our hands. We've got the whole world in our hands. We've got the whole world in our hands.
Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Time for another edition of Whole World News. This segment brought to you by ReadyWise. Be wise, be ready. Your trusted partner in emergency preparedness. All right, Hans, let's go to England. Sarah Oakley is the owner of a terrier mix. This is Sarah and her terrier mix named Rita. Okay. Rita looks like, even in this picture, it's up to no good.
A bit wolf, yeah.
Well, tell you what, Rita one morning came into the bedroom and was not feeling well, passed out, started convulsing. So Sarah takes her terrier mix to the vet. They do x-rays, and they find out that this dog, which is not a particularly large dog, there's another picture of the dog.
Oh, she's sweet.
Well, that sweet dog consumed 5 pair of underwear.
That dog ate 5 pairs of underwear?
Yeah, there's a little bit of, you can't really tell that's underwear, but that's a little bit of the x-ray photo there. And anyway,
are we soaking our underwear in beef juice?
I don't know how that happened, but
what is going on?
Either way, she consumed 5 pair of underwear. It is a Kim Kardashian line of underwear. So, and that will come into this story a little bit later, because when Sarah got the hospital bill, and I had no idea that you can get dinged like this at the vet, $13,000.
Yeah, totally believe him. Yep, totally believe it. Yeah, Lloyd is not surprised. I'm not surprised. You remember when Buster hurt his back and his back legs weren't working? That was going to be $10,000. But I'm telling you right now, animal chiropractors are a real thing, and they work.
Wow.
I'm a full believer of animal chiropractors. Before you do anything surgical, if you've got a dog that has any type of spinal or neck injury or hip or shoulder displacement or injury, check into these dog chiropractors. They will save you thousands of dollars just off adjustments.
Interesting.
I have experienced it now twice where I've saved a lot of money, because these surgeries where they open up a dog, it's going to cost you a lot.
What?
And you got to go in and get those underwear out of that dog.
Well, this Kim Kardashian line of underwear called Skims that she ate 5 pair of.
Yes.
She has reached out and said, "Hey, Kim, can you help me with these
expenses?
These expenses, because
and replacement.
You need to put out there that these are not edible underwear, and that this is not a good situation for my dog." She has also set up a GoFundMe as well.
Skims go about $45 a pair.
You know what Skims are?
Oh, yeah. I mean, everybody knows what Skims are.
Okay.
Everybody?
I had not heard of Skims before, but
so they're $45 a pair. Do you tell the vet, hey, when you get those out?
We're going to need to run those through the washer.
Or do you say, ditch them? What do you do with the pairs?
I think if they're $45 a pair, you try to save them. You're out $13,000 on a doctor bill too.
This dog might have a screw loose. You know, you'd eat down one of those pair and you'd be like,
Yeah.
It got number 2 down. It's got to be like, I'm stuffed. It stuffed another 3 pair after number 2.
And apparently it was only the illness or maybe a lack of more skims that slowed it down.
Is this girl built like Tinkerbell? I mean, what size?
I don't know.
What size under we talking about? Because I guarantee it's not eating 5 of our underwear.
No. She must not have too much junk in that trunk.
I mean, Scooby-Doo couldn't even suck back 5 of our underwear, let alone this little terrier.
That's a lot of fabric there.
I guarantee that those undies had to smell like either rabbit, squirrel, or mouse, because terrier, that's what they hunt.
Yeah. Well, on that note, we are live here at RGS Exteriors.
I'm not a pervert.
Yeah, maybe a little bit.
You love digging up stories that you know you're going to get me out of my comfort zone.
Well, you did not feel out of your comfort zone there, by the way. You felt very comfortable.
You're like Skims. Like I felt like I'm going to say Skims, but nobody knows what those are. And you're like, oh yeah, $45 a pair.
Starting to wonder, are they polka dots? Are they?
Yeah.
Well, when you got Christmases and birthdays, and you got a world full of needing to give gifts, and I like to give gifts that people need, not need people wants.
There you go. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Number 1. Miss any part of the show? Every moment of every show is available in podcast form by searching Hanson Scotty on your favorite podcasting platform or online at KSLSports.com. This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Past the mother ball, run back on defense. When it's time to communicate what we're doing on defense, you should do it at a volume louder than I'm talking to you right now. When there is a loose ball, you need to want it more than the other team. You are a member of a team. This is not about you. This is not a personal workout for you. I could go on and on and on, but you get the point. It's a team game. The moment that you make everything about yourself is the moment that it all goes bad.
Strong comments last night from Will Hardy, head coach of the Utah Jazz. Yes, it's a rebuilding year. Yes, the Jazz are essentially tanking, but that doesn't mean you need to play like garbage. And he was not pleased with how the Jazz performed in the second half in their loss last night. Well, helping us break it all down, it is the man himself. It is Kurt Helin from NBC Sports and ProBasketballTalk.com. Kurt, how are you?
I think I'm in a better mood than Will Hardy. I'm doing all right.
Yeah. Ooh. That got tempered. What'd you think of some of those comments?
You know what, though? I think as a coach, you have to pick your spots with that, right? Like, if you're just a yeller all the time, it gets drowned out. But if you're not, and Will's not, right? Like, he's not that. No. And I don't really think many guys by the NBA level really, frankly, are. It's not how you get through to guys at this level. But when you do, it's effective. And I think that, like, when you're rebuilding, when you're in the situation Utah is right now, you are still trying to build a culture of not just style of play, but playing hard every night, playing a certain style of defense, communicating. You expect certain levels of not levels of performance, but levels of effort to be met, right? Like, just we're going to do things this way, and even when it doesn't, when it doesn't result in wins every night, we're going to keep doing it that way because it's how we want to play, it's how we want things to go, and clearly things did not go that way recently, and for that game, and he just lost in the second half of that game, frankly, and he snapped, and I don't really blame him because that's if you're trying to get through to these young players, occasionally you need to, you need to go and throw the bats in the shower and call them lollygaggers and frighten them a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, George Karl used to say you get 3 of them a year, and then if you go any more, then everybody just kind of tones you out and doesn't care. Right. You get 3 meltdowns a year, and I don't know if that constitutes as a meltdown, but it's pretty close. By Will Hardy, he usually keeps a pretty even-keeled impression after games and things like that. So
I really like him.
I do too.
I don't know what you think, Kurt, but I have met him a few times. Scotty and I have had a couple conversations with him, but I really like who Will Hardy is. And I made the statement after we played his comments in full. I said, I'm not going to judge him until he's got a player on the court because, Kurt, until you got a player in the NBA, it doesn't matter what coach you've got, right? Yeah, exactly. You guys know him and have spoken to him more than I do, but I more than I have certainly. I've gotten that same impression. Look, first off, he is well respected around the league for what he's gotten out of these players, and I think there is an understanding that it just takes time to build these things. And so, yeah, no, I like him. I like him as the coach for wherever this ends up going. And hopefully that, look, again, already this, we've talked about it before, the way Isaiah Collier has played of late, the way some other people have played, you're like, hey, this, obviously Kessler and others, like this could be part of whatever it ends up looking like, in 3 years. There are guys here now who can absolutely be part of that. And the way they played helps that. But you've got to build that culture. Look, if you look at Oklahoma City, Mark Daigneault has taught the same thing through, it's been the same principles up and down that organization the whole way. Now, eventually they got more talent than anybody in the league, probably, or at least close to it. But the culture was built ground up, and you can see it when those guys, not only the way they play, but the post game, the interviews, the professionalism, but they're having fun with it. Like they built what they wanted to build, and it just takes time. Scotty brought up George Karl, and it just got me thinking, and I'm a big fan of Mike Malone. He's speaking of a guy that knows when to spout off or fire at a teammate or two. Who is considered the best coach in the NBA right now, or the top couple best coaches in the NBA? Eric Spoelstra. I know Miami's struggling mightily right now, but everybody would take him in a heartbeat. He is still considered the guy who is the heir to the, Pat Riley's role. It might ultimately, this might be, sort of what they did with Brad Stevens in Boston, right? It might ultimately be, Eric Spoelstra slides into the president's role, guy in charge of player operations, and they bring in a new coach. But right now, everybody would take him as a coach, number one. And then you get into that second tier, and it's, there'd be a whole bunch. There's a whole bunch of people like, but it's easy to name the guys who are winning. I think there is a lot of respect for Mike Malone. There's a lot of respect for Daigneault. There's quickly become a lot of respect for the Celtics coach, whose name suddenly is Mazzulla. Yeah. Although that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out if they struggle a little bit shooting threes in the postseason. He wants to shoot so many threes, and we'll see how that plays out over time. But I'm probably forgetting a couple names off the top of my head. But there are. What are you thinking of J.J. Redick right now? I like what he's done the first year. I think that they play better defense. He's got them pretty well organized. It's interesting. He really wants to play this switching defensive style. And they look, these last two games the Lakers lost to teams that you'd think they'd beat, with Orlando, now that they're healthy, Orlando and Chicago, and they had LeBron back for both. Both of those teams said, "You're going to switch everything? Okay, let's go." First off, they ran them down because it's an older team, and they just ran past them. But both of those teams said, "You want to run? You want to switch everything? Okay, we're going to target guys. You make it easy for us to target guys with this switching." So it's going to be interesting to see how he adapts as the personnel adapts. But overall, I think he's done a good job the first year, and the players like him. They're relating to him. So far, so good.
Oklahoma City, the first team to 60 wins. Shea gets 32 the other night. Give me your thoughts on, is this team a real, true title contender this season?
So I was just telling somebody else this, a couple people this the other day. I think they're going to win it all this year. I genuinely. Wow. This is after seeing them in person this week, beat the Clippers without Jalen Williams, the good Jalen Williams, the wing, the good, the future, the All NBA guy, and Chet Holmgren. They are deep. They are able to. They defend. They play versatile styles. They can beat you a number of different ways. I just like the way they're constructed, and I think they're serious right now and playing really great basketball at a time when I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Is Boston? I haven't even seen them completely healthy, and they're good, but they're right there. And Cleveland's dropped 4 in a row, and it's like I look at Oklahoma City, and I just think that's the team that's most put together this season.
Well, I'm a little bit worried about Damian Lillard, Kurt, and I saw the reports earlier this morning, and I had it on the docket to talk to Scotty about. We haven't got into detail on it, but anytime you hear blood clot anything, it's a major concern. They found a blood clot in his calf. It looks like they're going to keep him off the court for a certain period of time. They got 11 games left. He's saying he should be back on the court, but give people some thoughts that really care about Damian Lillard around here as a Weber State alum.
Yeah, I'm worried. We'll see what happens with that, just because deep vein thrombosis in the leg area is more serious than like Wembanyama's out with the same thing in the shoulder, but that's usually considered an overuse kind of one-time thing. They're saying that's the case with this, and it's been treated quickly, and he could return, this season or during the playoffs. But it just tends to be more serious when it's in the legs, and at his age, it's just concerning. It's concerning. I want him to take care of himself first. Like, he's got a family. He's got things that are a lot more important than chasing another ring with the Milwaukee Bucks, as much as he wants that. And we'll see. I hope those reports are true. Don't you? Ultimately, I hope those reports are true. So not only does he eventually get back on the court, but he gets back to living a normal life and not having this hang over him for the rest of his life.
Rutgers not in the NCAA tournament, certainly not in the Sweet 16. Cooper Flagg and Duke certainly continue to make their run. Is there any other players? I bring this up because I remember Kevin O'Connor, the old-time general manager for the Utah Jazz, when they drafted Gordon Hayward, mentioned that Butler's run with Gordon Hayward really cemented their belief in Gordon Hayward as a player, and one of the reasons why they took him. Is there other players outside of Cooper Flagg who I think could lose tomorrow and still be the number 1 overall pick? Is there any other players to keep an eye on in terms of their performance in the tournament that could elevate them up in the draft?
Yeah, by the way, I'm with you on Flagg, who I had a scout tell me he could blow up his knee and he'd be the number 1 pick in this draft. It's not terribly close. I think Queen has helped his cause from Maryland, and not just with that shot. He has been he's shown off the best of his game. He's with that passing, with that shooting, with that offensive skill set that's a little Alperen Sengun-like a little on offense. He can do a lot of things well, and he doesn't look horribly athletic, but he's able to kind of pull it off at a high level. He's not a great defender, but I think he's helped his cause. VJ Edgecombe is going to probably go 4th. He is a pretty solid number 4. Whatever the order ends up being, it seems to be a couple people, wherever you have him versus Harper versus Bailey, those 3 behind Flagg seem pretty locked in. And then at 5, it seems to start to branch out depending on the team and their needs and what they see, frankly, in some of these players. But I think Queen helped his cause. I'm trying to think of, and Edgecombe has looked, even though Baylor hasn't, and he in particular didn't necessarily look great, he showed enough.
You think BYU's Yegor Damon is near the end, considered a low lottery pick?
I think he's helped his cause too, right? Performing on this stage and taking BYU into the Sweet 16. I think so. I haven't gone that deep in the draft, but I think that's where there's a lot of variation from, like I said, almost 5, almost through 20. It's kind of a who do you like thing. It's not as cleanly tiered as it is some years. And so I absolutely think there's teams that would take him somewhere in the 10 to 15 range if he's available and they get them. It's going to depend a little on the lottery and kind of who's available at that point and where things land. But I absolutely think he could go that high. And I think, I don't want to overstate how much teams trust, like the scouting combine interviews and how those guys do in individual workouts will matter as much, or frankly, probably more than how they do in the tournament. But it absolutely does help that, hey, these are big moments and big pressure moments, and he's stepping up. It's a good sign.
Kurt, it used to be crazy to see a guy leave the NBA to take a head coaching job at the NCAA ranks, but we've got a couple of them here, top-end assistants in Kevin Young and now Alex Jensen taking the job at the University of Utah. Are you seeing more of this, where these high-level NBA assistants are taking NCAA jobs, or is this just rare for the state of Utah?
No, it's actually been a topic. And Mike Bibby just took Sacramento State. Like, there's been some NBA level, although he didn't really have a good job right now. There's more NBA people moving to college right now. Part of that, I think, is the college players in an NIL world, once you're, especially in the larger schools, it is a little more professional, and so there is some of that. But I think that there's a lot of guys looking at the situation right now, looking at the money that's now available to good college coaches, and saying, what, even if I don't want to be an NBA head coach that much, and maybe the lifestyle of an college head coach is a little better. It's certainly less travel. It's more practice. It's, there's more time with your family than NBA coaches get. And then I think you see it in the NFL a little bit. There's guys who are just willing to jump back and, man, that's the lifestyle I want. And I think you're going to see more of that in the NBA. There's certainly been a chunk of it. It's been a talking point around the league of, the last 6 months or so.
Well, and we've also seen, obviously Adrian Wojnarowski makes the jump and he becomes the GM for St. Bonaventure. But now we got Wes Wilcox, who was the assistant GM for the Sacramento Kings. He's now at the University of Utah, heading up their GM position as well. So are you seeing a little bit of movement from a front office standpoint too?
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that almost makes more sense. Like, basketball is basketball, and the X's and O's are the X's and O's. But handling a NIL world is truly a GM role, and you do really need somebody who gets it in that job. No matter how big or little the money is, I don't think Woj is handing out massive amounts of money at St. Bonaventure. But even so, like, that kind of recruiting, and that kind of situation, I think you're going to see a lot of guys, because it suddenly becomes a lot more similar, right? The GM role is much more similar to an NBA front office role. And again, if you've got ties to an area and you want to be back home or in a specific spot, it makes a lot of sense.
Kurt Helin, NBC Sports, ProBasketballTalk.com. Kurt, always a pleasure. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Hey, take care, guys. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks so much.
Man.
There you go, Kurt Helin, right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. There's a lot of, if Yegor Damon feels like he can go 10 to 15, he's got to go. And I think he's probably anticipating going.
What would the odds be that he'd fall down?
I can't imagine they're very, very strong. Like, I think he will be a low level, like 9 to 14 range pick in the draft.
These two NCAA tournament games are the first two times where I thought maybe he is ready. Now, there's a lot of guys that get drafted that aren't ready. Cody Williams.
Not ready.
Not ready. Taylor Hendricks was not ready. Now, he's in his second year and injured, and the first year was rough at times, but some upside, but rough at times. So we know that Yegor is going to be a serious project. But these last couple of games in the tournament, I've seen his assist vision. I've seen, like, big boy shots.
Oh, yeah.
Step back, big boy shots where it's like in your face. And I've seen him get aggressive with bigs across from him or defenders across from him that are trying to get aggressive and trying to intimidate his youth. And he doesn't, as a young kid, he doesn't get intimidated. In fact, he fires back on you. So those are the little things in high-level competition that I'm seeing from Jaeger. He needs to have another good one.
Yeah.
I think every time he shows guts against big competition, I think it's another big check mark for a potential lottery pick. But I think he's right on that borderline, which says to me, you go.
Yeah,
you
especially considering the crazy amount of talent that's going to be in next year's draft.
Yep.
All right, Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
The wheel is loaded, and it's time to talk some sports. This is Sports Roulette with Hans and Scotty on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hans Olsen, Scott Gerard, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. It is time for another edition of Sports Roulette. We take some of the big storylines, put it on a roulette wheel, we spin it. Wherever that little ball lands is what we end up talking about. So with that, let's get to it. Lloyd, fire it up.
What the Nell?
Okay, so I'm sure you've seen this going around.
Yes, old man Nell.
Trevin Nell is the oldest player in NCAA basketball. How old is he?
How old is he?
Well, how long has Luka Doncic been in the NBA?
What, 7 years now?
This is his 7th season. Trevin Nell is 5 months older than Luka Doncic. Think about this. 7 years in the NBA for Luka Doncic. Trevin Nell is 5 months older than him. So how did this happen? Well, you had a couple of years for a mission.
Yep.
You had a year for a medical red shirt. You had one other year of eligibility in there, and you kicked that ball on down the line, and you're 26 years old, and you're playing in an NCAA tournament.
Still working on COVID year.
Yep, working on COVID, and now you're 26 years old, and you're in your final year of eligibility, and you're older than a guy that's got 7 years of NBA experience under his belt. It really is hard to believe how veteran Trevin Nell is, and also how important his performance has been to this BYU basketball team.
Yeah.
He's knocking down critical threes.
I mean, we're talking about Jaeger. We're talking about Richie Saunders, Foose,
Cada. Yeah.
We don't bring up Trevin Nell a lot, but we should.
We should. We should, because he's the consistent hit. He's the cooler. You know, if Alabama's going on a crazy run and BYU's got 3 or 4 misses, Nell's the one I want to rotate just outside the elbow and let him knock it down, just outside the break. Let him knock it down and let him catch that momentum again. Because he can hit. Well, it just seems like his favorite area is just above the break.
Yep.
And he's so consistent with it. But you're right, we don't talk enough about him. And it's not like he's the team's superstar. He's just the consistent old man that's been running in this league for a bit.
Well, and I think that's what's been really good about BYU is their ability this year to rely on so many different people. It's not the Jimmer show like what we saw back the last time they were in the Sweet 16. You've got guys that contribute from 1 to 7, 1 to 8, 1 to 9. And Kevin Young, usually as the season goes on, you tighten up your rotation. It seems like he's expanded his rotation as the season's gone on. And anybody can go off on any given night, which makes them extremely dangerous.
Played his first game well before COVID ever hit in this country.
What was it? I think it was November 5th. I saw it like 2018 or 2019.
2019.
19.
Yeah.
Jeez.
He's been doing it for a long time, longer than anybody else in the tournament.
That's crazy. All right. Spit it, Lloyd.
Strong ratings for the NCAA.
Which is interesting, too, because we haven't seen a lot of crazy nail-biter games. I mean, that Maryland-Colorado State game was great, but for the most part, there hasn't been a ton of really great drama.
No.
But the NCAA men's basketball tournament is averaging 9.4 million viewers, marking the best figure through the second round since 1993. It's a plus 3% increase from last year. Sunday alone was a 2.1 million viewers, led by Duke, Baylor, Kentucky, Illinois, Florida, UConn, which
again, I hate saying this, but you look at all those programs, they're all, essentially blue bloods. Duke, Baylor, Kentucky, Illinois, Florida, UConn, those are all teams that have had strong success in the NCAA tournament in one way, shape, or form. They're all recognizable. So this is the year where we don't have any of those Cinderellas. They're all traditional blue blood programs in the Sweet 16, and you're seeing it from the ratings. So, we all claim we like Cinderella. Maybe we don't. Maybe deep down, we do want to just see the blue bloods, because right now the ratings are the best that we've seen in nearly 30 years. And it's being led by a bunch of traditional programs running chalk through the NCAA tournament.
First of all, is that 9 million? Is that
9.4 million viewers in average for each game?
For each game?
Yeah.
So
on average, each game is averaging 9.4 million viewers.
That's an insane number.
Yeah. That's why live sports, man, that's why people are still flocking there in terms of advertising dollars.
Didn't the BYU Colorado Bowl game get like 8 million and set
all kinds of records, yeah.
Crazy records?
Yeah.
So these tournament games are blowing the viewership out of the water. Great.
And this is including
That's amazing.
CBS, TBS, TNT, True TV, the streaming numbers, all that stuff involved.
Well, that is an incredible amount of eyeballs, and it's worth the investment. And you correct me if I'm wrong. You've been doing this NCAA tournament thing a lot longer than I have. You've watched it and covered it, and you know it better than me. But people make a lot of the Cinderellas. But didn't the Cinderellas usually drop in the Sweet 16 anyways? Isn't it usually blue bloods that advance to
usually,
the Elite Eight?
You might have that one team that makes it, like the Florida Atlantic, that makes that run. Or, there could be a team that does a run into the Elite Eight. But to have no Cinderellas at all in the Sweet 16.
That's rare?
That's rare. Okay. That's the first time, I want to say, in 7 or 8 years that you do not have a G5 school or a G4 school in the Sweet 16. So usually somebody makes it in there. Right now, your Cinderella is Arkansas as a 10 seed, who has the largest NIL payroll of anybody left in the tournament. So it's hard to call them a Cinderella when the only thing that makes them a Cinderella is that they just underachieved in the regular season.
Right now, wouldn't BYU be the biggest kind of underdog, or not underdog because they were 6th seed coming out of a big – but aren't they looked at as the team that would be like the biggest surprise to advance?
Yeah. Yep, 100%. And they were playing the best basketball of anybody in the country going into the tournament.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're right. All right, let's go one more, Lloyd. Spin it.
Now that's an investment.
I bring these a lot of times, whether it's whole world news or good, bad, ugly, whatever. I bring in stories that I think will amuse you or interest you.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I bring in stories that I know will annoy you.
Yeah.
And this is one of them.
Sending me off like that, huh?
1985, Michael Jordan's initial jersey that he wore in his first ever uniform. First ever uniform in his first ever game in the NBA. Chicago Bulls uniform. It sold in 1985 for $800. It sold at auction yesterday for $4.21 million. Oh my
gosh.
You imagine spending $4.2. Now that's a jersey that's got a little cachet to it. The first jersey Michael Jordan ever wore in the NBA. That's pretty cool. But still, to drop $4.2 million on that bad boy when it was purchased in 1985, so 40 years ago, for $800.
The only way that's going to bug me is if that same guy that bought that jersey ends up firing 10 employees to save himself $20,000 on the year.
I could see that.
Not that we saw that in this state ever.
No.
For coins.
All coins are the same. Hans and Scotty.
Hey, by the way, that is actually a really cool piece of memorabilia.
Oh, yeah.
I was kind of going through things somebody had posted something about Michael Jordan, LeBron James, blah, blah, blah. And I came to the conclusion, this is my personal opinion, of all the GOATs, I think Michael Jordan's the GOAT of all GOATs. And I don't know why that's so personal to me. But, you know, I've seen the videos of him get in the face of any tough guy in the NBA, never backed down, never showed fear, never lost in a finals series. The guy was all nails all the time, feisty as hell. And I'd say when we're talking about GOATs, Mike Tyson for me in boxing, or Tiger Woods in golf, or Tom Brady in football, or John Jones in UFC, or you go down the list, Michael Jordan to me is the GOAT of all GOATs in his given sport.
Yep. I 1,000% agree with you.
Why is that? The hell is that? We're not even basketball's not our background.
Nope.
Football's our background.
But you got to recognize greatness at that level, and there was nobody greater. Nobody greater that could single-handedly take over a game the way he took it over.
And nobody that gave you this feeling of deep emotion. Like,
yes.
Michael draws emotion. And I don't know if it's because he looks like Denzel Washington, and it's like he's got that look, like that dreadful, fearful, nasty, intimidating look when he wants to get angry. And I don't know if it's because it was at the peak of our childhood, Scotty.
There's some of that.
You know, he's cranking out his best basketball when we were the most impressionable.
Yep, that's true.
And we're buying his shoes, or at least, you know, little Idaho boys, we'd see people buy his shoes, and we'd want those shoes and never be able to get them. I'm sure a lot of that plays into it, but he moves me more emotionally than anybody else in their given sport.
Yeah. We'll wrap this up. Hans and Scotty coming up next, or JJ and Alex coming up next. We'll get you ready for their show straight ahead. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
We're locked on to Hans Olsen and Scotty Chin. That's right. Yeah! On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, wrapping up another edition of the show. Hans and Scotty, fun one today. Back at it tomorrow, Hans, and it's a big one as 5 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, BYU and Alabama.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the Major League Baseball opening day.
Oh, that is that, too.
It is that, too.
Yeah.
How are my Dodgers going to be this year, Scotty?
You know what? If they'd only decide to spend a few dollars on free agents, they might be better. But as long as they're tight like they are, I don't give them much of a chance.
Are they going to be Mookie-less?
Yeah, they're going to be. Right now, they're Mookie-less. He's down 25 pounds, and they can't figure out what the sickness is. So I'm a little bit worried about whatever position Mookie plays. Outfield? I think he's right.
Maybe he accidentally ingested some non-edible undies.
Yeah, I think that certainly could have happened. Maybe not one, not two, five.
Five, Mookie?
Come on, Mookie. Slow it down there a little bit, big fella. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Coming up next, JJ and Alex.